A year before he applauded Benicio del Toro as he ascended the stage, Joaquin went on a press tour, where he gave interviews and appeared on evening talk shows. We're used to Hollywood actors making journalists laugh and joking with late-night hosts, but Phoenix's publicity seemed to be harming his star status. His responses were scattered, and he seemed shy in front of the TV cameras. His colleagues were no help either. For example, Ridley Scott once described Joaquin as someone you feel sorry for no matter what happened to them on screen. Doug Wright has hinted at Joaquin's instability, and even his best friend Casey Affleck has introduced him as a guy who no one would believe flies first class. Fans were rather amused by his eccentric nature, but the actor seemed to be a problem for studios. Box office sales depend on successful advertising, but Phoenix's quirks weren't exactly creating long lines at the ticket booths. Joaquin's life was a roller coaster, with the high point being an Oscar nomination in the Best Film of the Year, followed by a steep drop into a reality where he was the third or fourth choice for a role. He got close to being cast in Pearl Harbor, but Michael Bay ultimately went with Josh Hartnett, another product of Iris Burton.
I'm not sorry.
Then Phoenix was considered for the role of Wolverine in X-Men, but his aloofness was a deterrent to the producers of the blockbuster. The actor's next project was the inexpensive dark comedy, Buffalo Soldiers.
Guys! What? Just letting you know, Parsons is dead.
Although describing the film's comedy as dark doesn't quite do its content justice, it's actually an immoral, violent, and offensive comedy that satirizes America's ideals. The US Army condemned the movie before the first frame was ever shot.
Perfect.
Filming took place at a military base in Germany that American troops had transferred to the Germans. The film is an adaptation of a novel by Robert O'Connor about a swindler named Ray Elwood, who turns his army service into an illicit operation dealing in drugs and army supplies.
Uh-oh. Jackpot.
Scenes featuring Joaquin and Ed Harris mimicked the style from the TV show MASH.
Amphetamines, traces of barbiturates, estrogen. Estrogen?
A birth control pill. You might have thought it was something else.
Well, fine, but he didn't take heroin, speed, and cocaine by mistake, did he?
It seems unlikely, sir.
With some added charm from Michael Pena and Anna Paquin. The film premiered at the Toronto Film Festival on September 8, 2001. This date should speak volumes about the movie's success. Just 3 days later, America would have a long-lasting breakup with films that mock the military and patriotism. Because of the tragedy, the film's release in the United States was postponed for 2 years. But even that buffer wasn't enough to avoid controversy. In addition to provocations at press conferences, the advertising posters also received criticism. A smiling Joaquin is shown posing in front of an American flag, flashing a peace sign with the slogan, "Steal all that you can steal," above him. The phrase, which was considered a PR stunt, misfired, and the film flopped at the box office. But critics still praised the acting. Buffalo Soldiers is the last project that Iris Burton would find for Joaquin. Phoenix considered her a member of the family. Burton had visited the Florida home and given his brother and sisters a chance. However, Iris's tiny agency, which helped launch the careers of countless children and teens, couldn't handle the needs of the rising adult star. As further confirmation of this fact, as soon as Joaquin signed with Hollywood's largest talent agency, CAA, he landed the highest paid role of his career.
Stimulating.
For his participation in the thriller Signs by M. Night Shyamalan, the studio was willing to pay $1 million. At that time, producers spared no expense in fulfilling the director's requests. After The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, Touchstone Pictures knew that Shyamalan's next film was guaranteed to be a box office hit, and the director did not disappoint. The film kept audiences in a state of suspense from the very first scene, with performances by Joaquin and Mel Gibson shining a new light on the actors.
I would say so, yes.
Probably.
The famous birthday party scene, considered to be one of the most frightening in the history of cinema, packs a stronger punch thanks to the look of horror in Phoenix's eyes. The director appreciated his talent and immediately invited him to be in his next film. At the same time, Joaquin was only cast in Signs because Mark Ruffalo had been diagnosed with a brain tumor shortly before filming. Fortunately, it was benign.
I'm a miracle man.
While Phoenix was preparing for his upcoming role in The Village, he acted in the mysterious, if not strange, romance drama It's All About Love. Young Danish director Thomas Vinterberg shot a complex and sometimes violent art house film.
There's a dead man in front of us.
Just step over.
Step over him.
Alas, despite the Hollywood stars and sophisticated camera work, critics were not impressed. It will take another 15 years, a collaboration with Mads Mikkelsen, and 3 Oscar nominations before they finally see his talent.
I don't quite follow you.
In addition to It's All About Love, in 2003, the animated family film Brother Bear was also released.
No, I mean I'm not a bear. I hate bears.
Well, gee, eh? You're one big beaver. Don't kid me.
Joaquin voiced the main character over the course of nearly 3 years, not because the script had so many lines, but because the studio would record short sessions as the animation was rendered and made available. Brother Bear did not make the list of successful family projects that year. It failed at the box office and received a lot of mediocre reviews, with praise reserved for the design, while the plot was panned.
Thanks for your wisdom.
In the fall of that year, Joaquin went to the Shyamalan training camp. The director insisted that the cast members immerse themselves in the realities of rural living. The group of Hollywood superstars learned how to build a fire, plow the ground, chop logs, and thresh corn. This approach united the group and enhanced the sense of realism, 2 things the director reveled in. Over 300 people constructed the village, which was built especially for the film. All of the costumes were made from available materials in the area, just as the characters would have done. In pursuit of external ideas, the director lost track of miscalculations in the script. A working version of the text hit the internet before filming had ever begun. Thousands of Shyamalan fans were horrified by the final act and openly made fun of the dialogue. The wave of criticism hit so hard that the director even changed the script. However, he left the plot twist unaltered. Upon its release, The Village was met with scathing reviews.
Why'd you tell me this blackness?
Nevertheless, the film was a hit at the box office, earning Joaquin his $4 million acting fee.
There are different types of love.
Another project that Phoenix had to physically train for was Ladder 49.
Your helmet.
He attended the Baltimore Fire Academy for a month and then joined the city's volunteer fire department. The other firemen initially nicknamed him Hollywood and treated him with disdain, but Joaquin was proactive and participated in response to real calls. After being almost literally baptized by fire, people started calling him by his name and accepted him as an honorary member of the department. After experiencing real fires, the movie's special effects were child's play to the actor, although this is perhaps more to the credit of the explosives coordinator. During the planning phase, the film's creators decided not to use computer-generated graphics. Fire was deemed too unpredictable to simulate accurately, especially if it was playing a full-fledged character in the story. The special effects terrified the city of Baltimore. Flames were rising from out on the outskirts of town, causing concerned residents in the area to immediately call 911. The emergency line received so many calls that a representative of the city's fire department went live on several radio stations to make the public aware of the situation and put their fears at ease. Director Jay Russell successfully tackled the action scenes in Ladder 49, but overcooked the dramatic part of the narrative with a plot full of cliches and excessive sentimentality. The media denounced the attempt to play on the public's patriotic sentiment after 9/11. Joaquin received his fair share of criticism too. He wasn't liked by critics as the heroic boy next door.
What?
The only positive reviews went to the special effects and John Travolta, who critics considered a breath of fresh air in the otherwise stifling movie.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
The $60 million project was a box office flop. Phoenix's agents were just glad that 2004 had been the most productive year of their client's career, as the failure was quickly eclipsed by his next film.
We have heard reports of reprisal massacres. Will the UN intervene to stop the bloodshed?
Depicting the story of the Rwandan genocide was a desperate attempt to draw attention to the horrors that the global community was ignoring. While the UN was gaining influence in the Bosnian conflict, and the US was recovering from its setbacks in Somalia, Rwanda was quietly drowning in blood. The Tutsi genocide had claimed the lives of 1 million people, and the world did not seem to notice. Director and screenwriter Terry George portrays the nightmare from the perspective of Paul Rusesabagina, a hotel manager who saved more than 1,000 lives. The film, with its documentary-like accuracy and impassivity, immerses the viewer in the terror of it all. In addition, some of the sequences being filmed in the capital of Rwanda, Kigali, the actors strove for authenticity. Don Cheadle spent weeks with Rusesabagina. Nick Nolte studied General Romeo Dallaire, and Joaquin spoke to cameramen who had covered the events from within the country. I met 3 different guys, and it was very insightful. It was difficult hearing the stories, and I think it was also very difficult for them to tell the stories, but we learned a lot about their experiences. These cameramen had covered 30 wars, but they said they had never experienced anything like Rwandan genocide. Joaquin's character personifies an outsider's view of the situation. He sees the absurdity of the division between the Hutu and the Tutsi.
I am Tutsi.
And your friend, Tutsi?
No, I'm Hutu.
They could be twins.
And tells Paul about the apathy of the rest of the world.
They'll say, oh my God, that's horrible. And then go on eating their dinners.
The film shined a light on the tragedy and captivated audiences, but not without controversy. The president of Rwanda at the time accused Rusesabagina of being an ally of the Hutu regime. Paul Kagame claims that Paul had extorted money from the refugees and spied for criminals. Of course, these statements were only made after Rusesabagina openly criticized the current government. In 2020, he was arrested and accused of financing extremists. Paul refuses to assist in the investigation and argues that the trial violates his human rights. But let's get back on track. Even before Joaquin was cast in Hotel Rwanda, he was invited to a dinner which hinted at the role of a lifetime.
Now play the chord.
Gladiator fans Johnny and June Cash met with Phoenix at their estate, and a couple of months later, the actor received the script for the biological drama, Walk the Line.
Hello. I'm Johnny Cash.
Like the country music legend, director James Mangold had been impressed with Phoenix's portrayal of Commodus and saw him as the perfect candidate to play Cash. At the same time, the director and actor agreed that the casting was not related to the parallels between his and the character's life, although Cash also had lost his older brother. I think people have an idea of what my experience is, and they think that's what it is, but it's not. My experience is very different from John's. I think there's a vast difference with your understanding of life and death when you're 10 years old to when you're 18. Johnny and June personally approved the candidates for the leading roles. Reese Witherspoon was chosen to be Joaquin's partner.
Hi, Buzz. How y'all doing again?
There was just one problem. Neither of them sang or played instruments.
What's wrong with the way I sing?
To help the actors fit the part, Phoenix and Witherspoon were handed over to legendary guitarist T-Bone Burnett. For more than 6 months under his guidance, Joaquin and Reese honed their vocal skills and mastered the guitar and autoharp. It was an extremely difficult time, full of arguments and nervous breakdowns. However, at the very beginning of their journey, Joaquin and Reese had made a pact that they would star in the film together. If one of them was replaced, the other would also leave.
You mind?
No, not at all.
Additionally, Mangold advised the actors not to copy Cash and Carter, but to create their own interpretation of them. As a result, every musical number in the film is performed in front of a live audience.
Well, when she wrapped her loving arms around my neck on the dance floor at Chelsea's bar, I should have turned her away, but how was I to say? I was firing, she was gasoline, good God. I was firing, she was gasoline.
Mangold gave the actors complete creative freedom during filming. While performing songs, they based their actions on the circumstances of the plot. Johnny's stare and June's response are improvised. Joaquin later recalled that he was shocked by Reese's reaction, because he had been trying as hard as he could to get her to lose control. Another unscripted scene is Cash's emotional breakdown, where Phoenix tears the sink off the wall and wrecks the dressing room. Joaquin was so committed to the role that not only did he replicate his character's musical achievements, but also his bad habits. The actor spent months drinking a bottle of whiskey every night. This radical acting method led him to voluntarily checking himself into rehabilitation.
It was really more of a country club that didn't serve booze. You fall into routines. But I didn't want to go out and feel I have to have a fucking drink just to be okay with going to a restaurant.
Johnny and June Cash passed away before the film's premiere. The director decided to pay them a special tribute. On the 38th anniversary of Cash's famous performance, Walk the Line was shown to the inmates of Folsom Prison in the very same room.
My hat's off to you now, because I ain't never had a drink this yellow water you got here at Folsom.
The film won over audiences beyond the correctional facility as well. Revenue from ticket sales nearly reached $200 million, in addition to the film picking up awards and nominations along the way.
Who'd ever thought that I'd win in the comedy or musical category? Not expected.
Joaquin lost the award for Best Actor to Philip Seymour Hoffman, but Reese Witherspoon celebrated victory.
And I want to say thank you to Joaquin Phoenix, who just...
The new surge in fame didn't pay dividends for Phoenix. Instead, he relived his experience with Gladiator, taking a year-long hiatus from acting following the awards ceremony. During this break, the documentary Earthlings is the only project featuring Joaquin to hit the screens, with him as a narrator.
Humans, therefore, being not the only species on the planet, share this world with millions of other living creatures as we all evolve here together.
This shocking and horrifying story of animal abuse is the only project in the actor's career that he says could change the planet. The lives of everyone who has seen Earthlings is divided into before and after. After watching the documentary, tens of thousands of people stopped eating meat, and some even joined the fight for animal rights. However, the vegan community denounced the number of violent shots and the lack of reasoning behind the film's use of intimidation over enlightenment.
It is the human Earthling who tends to dominate the Earth, oftentimes treating other fellow Earthlings and living beings as mere objects.
Joaquin returned to the big screen in the fall of 2007. The action thriller We Own the Night, directed by James Gray, is the first on-screen collaboration between Phoenix and Mark Wahlberg since the release of The Yard 7 years earlier.
What's the matter, Joe? Nothing. It's kind of weird seeing you. Yeah, I know.
The director takes a typical plot about a battle between the mafia and the police and embellishes it with an original selection of actors. The dynamic between the two main characters, the perfect casting of Robert Duvall and Eva Mendes, and the inclusion of Russian actors like Oleg Toktarov and Yelena Solevi to play Russian characters are what make the film unique.
Hi, Kalina.
It combines predictable plot developments with original decisions by the director. For example, the car chase scene. Gray reviewed hundreds of films and found a way to surprise audiences. The viewers watches the pursuit from a first-person perspective, making the special effects and car crashes barely noticeable. Like Joaquin's character, the audience feels as if they don't have time to pay close attention to them. The director also took advantage of the chemistry between Wahlberg and Phoenix. He wrote the characters specifically for the actors and even had them stage another fight, although this time they did it without hurting each other. Instead, Joaquin's true on-set victim was Robert Duvall. To get into character for their scenes together, the actor would bully and curse at his older co-star.
He was always invading my space on camera. I think it was a device they had to get me a little irritated. It kind of worked in a way.
Disgusting. You're uncontrollable, you know?
The fact that James Gray no longer worked with Harvey Weinstein meant that he retained the rights to the final cut. Despite the film's lackluster reviews criticizing its pretentious dialogue and comparing it to cheap film noir of the 50s, it paid off at the box office.
Either you're gonna be with us, or you're gonna be with the drug dealers. I'll see you.
Joaquin continued his streak of reunions in 2007 on a new project with Terry George, director of Hotel Rwanda, in Reservation Road. The director tells the story of a personal crisis that's just as horrifying as that of the government.
The vehicle that struck your son was traveling from that direction, is that correct, sir?
Phoenix and Mark Ruffalo play two fathers on opposite sides of the barricades. One is looking for his son's killer, while the other is looking for the strength to confess to the murder. George filmed the heartbreaking scenes simultaneously from several different angles. This allowed the actors to perform as they would on stage and give their all in every scene, even if the shot didn't make the cut in post-production.
That's where Josh was hit.
Jennifer Connelly would go on to call this the most difficult film of her career, while critics would write entire newspaper columns praising the performances of the three main characters. Unfortunately, it turned out to be the only thing that journalists admired. They contrast the masterful acting with a plotline full of coincidences and accidents that undermine the viewer's ability to believe in what's happening on the screen.
Mr. Arno?
What brings you here?
Oh, my daughter takes piano lessons from Mrs. Weldon.
The film performs disastrously at the box office, subsequently depriving the director of a decade of theatrical film releases.
No, that's a good movie. Underrated.
Phoenix was also approaching an extended career break, but before doing so, he managed to once again team up with James Gray in Two Lovers. Breakdancing takes the place of gunfights and brawls. The director experiments with a new genre of romantic drama, where Joaquin once again exceeds his wildest expectations. In a love triangle with the characters of Vanessa Shaw and Gwyneth Paltrow, the actor portrays a quivering and vulnerable introvert.
I fell into the bay. It's cold. Oh, come on, stop. I'm
You
fine.
fell into the bay?
It's not gonna happen again. Don't worry.
Scenes with Isabella Rossellini, who plays the protagonist's mother, emerges as a masterpiece in their own right.
We don't care about that. You know that.
The film will be called the best of Phoenix's career.
Thank you.
But that will be forgotten on the day of the premiere. On the red carpet, Joaquin will announce that he's giving up acting.
This will be my last performance as an actor. I'm not doing films anymore.
To begin his career as a rapper.
Hey, do you like our work? Let us know with your like and comment. Push that subscribe button and share with your friends. If you want to support the project financially, become our sponsor on Patreon or YouTube sponsorship. Thank you.